Yep.
All right, we are currently in the Sefer Likutim Dach Tzemach Tzedek, in the entry for Umot haOlam, page Tov Kuf Lamed Hey, which would be 535. Middle of the page, Tes, Misparam, their number. So we're starting a new section. We actually started this last time, but we're going to go back to the beginning of it. And this is regarding the number of the nations of the world. The official number we know is 70, and that's because of the original 70 nations listed in Bereshis and Genesis after the flood, the three sons of Noach and their descendants. So they originally are 70. So why is the number 70? And what's 70 so special? And what is symbolic and significant of 70? Okay, middle of page Tov Kuf Lamed Hey. Nosoi Parsha Tes Daf Reish Lamed Amud Beis. That's the reference where what we're about to say is taken from. It's in the Medrash Rabbah on the book of Bamidbar in the Torah portion of Nasoi. And it tells you exactly which section and which page it is over there. In the regular standard prints, it would be page Reish Lamed, which is 230 B. Okay. Lamed b'nei Cham. So there's the three sons of Noach, Shem, Cham, and Yefes. And if you look in the Chumash, you will see Cham had 30 descendants, Lamed. Yudalad b'nei Yefes, and there are 14 descendants original of Yefes, Chaf Vav b'nei Shem, and 26 descendants of Shem. Shivim, total of 70, 30, 14, and 26. Shenemar, as the verse says, now this is not over there in Genesis, is going towards the end of the Torah, in the book of Devarim, in the weekly portion of Ha'azinu, second to last portion. Yatsev Gvulois Amim. So this is Moses speaking. And he says that he will establish the borders of the nations, meaning the different nations. Lemispar b'nei Yisrael, according to the number of the Jewish people. The Kama Haim, and how much are the original Jews? Kol HaNefesh Leveis Yaakov, Haba'am Mitzrayim. Again, to quote or paraphrase the verse, going back now, back to the book of Bereshis, when the Jewish people, that is the original Israel, Yaakov, and his entire family descended from the land of Canaan, and they're moving into exile to the land of Mitzrayim, of Egypt. So the verse actually says that they were all a total of Shivim, 70. The whole Shivim. And interestingly enough, the number of the nations of the world are 70 as well. So the original Jews, although there's different ways to count, you could say 12 tribes. Those were the original. Or you go back and you could say, well, no, there's three: Abraham, Jacob, and Isaac. Isaac and Jacob. But one of the ways that we actually are the first time where we already are a nation, a big family, that is as we entered the land of Mitzrayim. And at that time, the Jewish people were 70. And that's the 70 nations corresponds to that number. Ayin Mashakasuv, he's sending us to take a look at what it says. Me'inyan Shivim Nefesh, with regards to this idea of the 70 souls, 70 people. The Hagoyis for the Barmaskil Bamidbar Sinai Boil Moyed. And the gloss is to a Hasidic discourse with the opening words based on the verse Bamidbar Sinai Boil Moyed. And I believe that the Tzemach Tzedek is referring to his own glosses on the discourse in Likutei Torah. Likutei Torah, as you know, is the Chasidus on the weekly portions of Vayikra, Bamidbar, Devarim, and the entire Shir Hashirim, Song of Songs. Officially, Likutei Torah is the teachings, the discourses of the Alter Rebbe. However, much of it includes the Tzemach Tzedek, because the Tzemach Tzedek rewrote or incorporated his notes and glosses into the actual text of the discourse. So the Tzemach Tzedek is telling us to take a look at his note on a particular discourse in Likutei Torah, where he speaks about the number of 70 souls. And this will be understood. Al derech shenispire, along the same lines as has been already explained, the Likutei Torah Parshas Re'ei, v'diber maschil l'chol banayich per gimel. So he's giving us another reference, and he says in Likutei Torah, in the section for the week of Re'ei, in the discourse beginning with the words of the verse, v'chol banayich, chapter 3, the Pirush V'rav Shloim. So over there, he quotes the verse. The verse says, "V'chol b'nayich limudei Hashem," and all of your children, the Jewish people, are students of Hashem. And then it says, "V'rav shloim banoyich," and much peace is to your children. So the language of the verse is "V'rav shloim," and a lot, an abundance, much peace. V'rav. So he explains over there that from this aspect of v'rav, riboy, upirud. In other words, the word rav literally has a connotation of many, which by definition, many means separate, as opposed to unity. So in a sense, it's the opposite of unity, because unity, it's all united. So even if there are separate parts, but they're all as one. As we find actually by the Jewish people, by Jacob, it says that they were 70 nefesh, the verse that we quoted. Nefesh is in the singular, whereas by Esav, it uses the plural. So Rav implies many, which is pirud, which means separation. Hem ayin sarim, those are the 70 ministering angels to oivdei kechavim u'mazolos, of the idolaters, of the goyim, the nations of the world, hamekablim, which are receiving me'ayin tluya, from the hanging letter ayin, di'icharsemena chazir miyoar, from the verse in Tehillim, which we discussed last time, that I think I was off by one chapter. I may have said it's chapter 8.
Yeah.
It's 80. What did I say? 81 or something?
No, you said it was in the 80s. Yeah, you said it was in like the lower 80s. So
yeah, so it's chapter 80.
Oh,
and so now traditionally, according to the Masera, the tradition, when writing properly, on parchment with the right letters and the crowns and the spaces accordingly, everything. So there are certain letters which are to be jumbo letters. And then there are certain letters which are to be minuscule, tiny letters. This is all relative to whatever size letters the scribe is writing. Well, here, the letter ayin in the word mi yo'ar, which means from a forest. So the letter ayin in the middle of that word is not only to be a small letter, but it's hanging. It's written in such a fashion that the letter appears to be, so to say, hanging. Instead of normally the letter, has the top, the bottom, it's sitting on the imaginary line that you would have. Here, the letter is hanging. Okay. And that's the letter ayin, which is the gematria, the numerical value of 70. So it's no coincidence. We're talking over here about chazir, about the pig, and the letter ayin of the word forest is hanging.
Wow, yeah.
Yuchlal. So the idea is like this, that it should be incorporated b'vchinas hayichud, in the idea of the unity, the Elikim of Elikim, the name of Hashem, be'ayin nefesh to Yaakov, in the 70 nations of Yaakov. So the idea is to take the 70 ministering angels, which is the source, the spiritual energy of the nations of the world, and have them become incorporated in the 70 souls of the Jewish people of Yaakov. And this is precisely Inyan, the idea, the theme of Asid Chazir, that in the future, the pig, Shehu Klipas Noiga, Litahir.
Oh, wow.
That he is going to become purified. Vain Shamba Bir Perik Beis, and take a look over there that after this mimer that he's quoting the discourse, then there's an explanation on that discourse, chapter 2.
No, Rabbi Turen, real quick. Does it really say purified? Or does it use it in the sense of he's klipat noga? In other words, he has the potential. Do you see what I'm saying?
What I don't understand is how are we saying over here that the chazir is klipas noiga? I thought it was the 3 klipas atmeyos.
Right. Yeah. Well, here's my thought, and you tell me what you. The Tanya talks about how there's things in klipat noga that has potential for holiness. In other words, if you do mitzvot, Torah mitzvahs against the klipa noga, then it can be elevated. But if not, it actually...
All of klipas noga has that potential to be incorporated in kedusha or to go all the way down.
Right. So that's what I'm wondering. I'm thinking now it has that potential. It's
well,
not necessarily...
I would generally...
It's not necessarily kosher yet, but it has the potential, something like that.
I would not be so quick to normally say what I'm about to say, but in this case, I'm going to say it. Okay. And I think that it's a typo.
Okay.
I don't think it could be kuf nun klipas noiga. That doesn't make sense.
That's why I'm interpreting it the way I'm interpreting it.
I know, I understand, but it doesn't make sense until the chazir is purified. In other words, you're saying correctly that the gimel klipas atmeas cannot be elevated. Klipas noiga can. So if it says that the chazir is going to become purified, obviously we're speaking about some element or aspect or level of klipas noiga.
It's like in chapter 20. In chapter 26 of Likutim in the Tanya in
Likutim Amorim.
No, excuse me. Igris HaKodesh.
Yes.
Chapter 26.
Yes.
He talks about, I think he might actually use the pig as an example of during the times of Moshiach, people misunderstand what the Zohar is saying and thinking that it's now permissible. And well, maybe I'm talking about it slightly.
He does not mention the chazir over there.
Yeah.
I think what he's saying over there is that the question is, how can you say that the tree of knowledge, which is a mixture of good and evil, how could there be evil in the Torah?
Right.
So he's saying not that there's evil, but it discusses good and evil.
Mm-hmm.
Something like that.
Right. Yes. Very good. And
I really would go so far as to suggest that this might be a typo. I don't even know who to ask. You know what?
Because there's something in the Tanya, and maybe it's not chapter 26. It's somewhere in Hasidus, I thought, where he says that people that studied the Zohar, they get confused and they think things that are. It said it's going to be permissive. Things are going to become permitted.
Yeah.
Well, things that are permitted are from the right side, from the side of, and klipat nogas from the right side. And what I'm thinking is that's kind of what's going on. Which I think you understand what I'm saying. It's not uplifted yet, but something it's it's coming from the right side now somehow. I still haven't figured it out. Still haven't figured it out, but
what I want to do is, I'm not sure I have it at home, but I need to look up, because at the end, of course, as he always does, they give us the reference where this is taken from. Because remember, this is all a compilation of writings of the Tzemach Tzedek.
Right.
So it's in Or HaTorah HaAzinu, and it tells us the page.
Okay.
And I have much of the Or. You don't have the whole Or HaTorah.
Yes, I do.
You have the whole Or HaTorah?
Yeah, got it on sale.
Wow.
I haven't studied it yet. I mean, I don't, crack it open, but I definitely got it.
Okay, so if I don't have this volume, we're going to have to look it up. And I would venture to suggest that there might be a typo here.
Okay. Because there's a mention of how even people who he's using it as, I forget where it is then. But for instance, like the Hazir, you can eat a Hazir during a time of war. And so people might be mistaken in thinking, oh, it's permitted. We can eat it now. But what the Alter Rebbe is saying, or maybe it's the Tzemach Tzedek, he says it's not that it's so much permitted, it's just that you can go ahead and eat it, but there's still the tuma, there's still the impurity. The impurity still resides on the body. In other words, it's not clean.
Well, anytime anything is permitted, such as in a matter of life-threatening situation, or the example given of the going to war and eating that part of the chazir, then it becomes permissible.
But he's saying even though it becomes permissible, it's still not. It's still
tamei.
I'm sorry.
It's still tamei and therefore affects the person negatively.
Yes, I think so, and I think he says it doesn't get released from its mutar and what's the other? It's permitted and asur. Yes, it's still tied.
I don't know. That sounds a little strange, because the whole point is, if it's mutar, then it's totally permitted for that person in that situation, and it's not tied down anymore. That would be a way to elevate something which is even from the Gimel Klipei Satmeyos, which normally is not elevatable.
Mm-hmm. When I come across it, I'll try to.
Please.
Yeah, okay. I'll try to clarify it. But I love this topic. This is so excellent.
Yeah. All right. Ulahayir, and to take note, Mimasha Kasuv, from that which is written, Al Pasuk, based on the verse that says in Tehillim, in Psalms, Yemei Shnei Seinu Bahem, the days of our years, our lives, in them, Shivim Shana, are 70 years. So King David says that our lives are 70 years. Shugam Kain, Levar Bechinas Ein Hanizkar Le'el. This is also in order to elevate the 70 that we mentioned above. Meaning, Mashenofal, that which fell, and now the acronym, Bishviras HaKelim, in the breaking of the vessels, Mi Zayin Tachtoinois De'ima. From the 7 lower ones, meaning the Midois, the attributes, emotional attributes, as opposed to the intellect, of Ima, of mother, which would be Bina. So within Bina, the 7 Midois, which come from Bina, so that's where the Shviras HaKelim in the world of chaos, of Toyu, took place. So, and there's 70 of them, because there's 7 Midois, and each Midah is made up of all the 10 spheres, including the 3 of intellect. So you have Chesed included in it is Chachma, Bina, Das, and the 7 Midois. And then you have Gvura, and within it, Chachma, Bina, Das, and the 7 Midois, and so on. So it's 7 times 10. So the Shviras HaKelim, therefore, ends up being connected to number 70. V'zeu inyan Shema, Shem, Ayin. And that's also the idea of Shema, as in Shema Yisrael, here. So Shema is spelled Shin Mem Ayin, which would be Shem, name, Ayin of 70.
Wow.
V'ayin Mashakosuf, and take a look at what it says. Al Pasuk, on the verse, Im B'chukoisai. So in the book of Leviticus, the beginning of the section of the parsha called B'chukoisai starts off saying, Im B'chukoisai, if in my statutes. Shal Yedei Yeh Aliyah, that by doing so, by going in the following Hashem's rules, there will be the elevation. Ki hinei ksiv, for it is written, Ki lo yir'ani ha'adam v'chai. When Moshe asked Hashem, I want to see you, I want to see your face. So Hashem tells him, you could see my backside, as it were, but Ki lo yir'ani ha'adam, the Adam, man, cannot see me, v'chai. Simple translation, and live. You know, you can't have it both ways. If you see me, you won't be alive anymore. You can't see me and live. However, the way that it's explained on a deeper level, not that you can't see me and live, but it's two that can't see me. Ha'adam, man, you can't see me. And who else can't see me? V'chai. Shafilu hachayois, even the high angels, which are called chayos, which are in the chariot, in the Merkava, the ones that are carrying the kisei, the throne. Einon roin es hakavod. They too, up there, even though it's such a lofty, godly level, they too cannot see the real glory of Hashem. So that's what Hashem is telling Moshe, that man can't see me, nor can the chayos. V'tzadikim, however, the righteous, b'misason, in their demise, when they pass away, royin, then they do see. So that would be going back to the simple translation of man can't see me and live. But once he's no longer living, then he can. V'hainu, meaning, sheyisrein ha'or, that the advantage of the light, nimshach, is drawn, mei hachoshech, from the darkness. So it's specifically when a person is in a dark situation, when there's a concealment, then from there becomes a greater light.
That's why Moshe had to hide in the rock.
Yeah. L'chein, therefore, yesh loymar, we can say, that's the meaning of the verse that says the days of our years is 70 years. Shivim bechinas ayin. 70 is this ayin that we're talking about. Kamashakasav hamagid dvarim soif ois ayin. And he gives a reference. And likewise, al yedei birur ayin bechinois tegvulois amim. So too, by purifying the 70 borders of the nations, going back to the second line over here, where we said the verse that he will establish and place the borders of the nations.
Oh, wow.
So there's 70 nations. So those borders. And as we say, it's in the festival Shemon Esrei, the prayer. What do we say in the Amidah of the festivals? Ata v'chartanu mikol ha'amim. The Jewish people are praising Hashem and saying to him, you have chosen us from all of the amim, all the nations. So what do you mean mikol ha'amim? It's not, if you take it kind of literally, it doesn't just say you chose us over all the other nations, but it's from within. You chose the Jewish people from the nations. Shehu al derech, it's along the same lines and similar. hakoyen hagadol me'echav. The verse says, when it's speaking about the high priest, so it says, the high or the great priest, me'echav, from his brethren. Simply translated, that out of all the priests, there's one that's the high priest. But if you take it really literally, it says from his brethren. And from that, the sages learn out, Gadlu mikol echav, make him greater from all of his brethren, meaning the other priests, if necessary, are supposed to pitch in financially and do whatever it takes to make him great. In other words, the greatness of the high priest is not just that he's greater than all the rest, but it's from the rest. Hochinami, that's the acronym, which in Gemara language means here so too, here as well. Mikol ho'amim, when we say that Hashem, you chose the Jewish people from all the nations, mehabirur shemibchinas ho'amim yumshach chuli, meaning from the elevation, from the transforming and purifying, the nations will be drawn a greater light coming from the darkness. Ukmashakasuv al pasuk, as it says on the verse, V'shilashta tered chuli, that you will descend. So it's explained on that verse somehow that by that descent, from there will come out the greatest revelation.
Because the descent is like a death.
Yeah.
So juxtaposing the high earlier, right?
Right. Very good. Now, listen to this. Vizehu, and this is the meaning, ki ayin ba'ayin yiru, famous verse, that in the future, in times of Moshiach, eye to eye, we will see Hashem. I think he's referring to the fact that ayin is 70. So the word for the eye, E-Y-E, is ayin yud nun, ayin. It's the exact same word for that letter, which the numerical value of that letter, ayin, is 70. So in other words, the I is associated with number 70.
Wow.
So we're going to see Hashem in the most revealed way, in the way that Moshe asked to see, and Hashem told him impossible. Well, that's what's going to happen in the Messianic era, and it's going to be connected with number 70, ayin ba'ayin yiru. Yuvan, and from this will be understood smichas, the juxtaposition in the verse, yitzrenhu ki ishoin einoi. It says that Hashem is going to, I think it's protect him like not just the pupil of his eye, but what do you call the the center of the eyeball? Is that the pupil?
No, the cornea,
apple,
the pupil. Might be the pupil.
But there must be a real like a medical term for that black part, the middle, the part we actually see from.
The cornea, the pupil.
Maybe it's the cornea.
The pupil is dilated. I think it's the pupil. I think the cornea is the outside.
Okay, so pupil. Yeah. So that Hashem is going to, I think, protect him like that, like the pupil of his eye.
Wow.
And then what does it say? La pasuk, the verse that we started off with at the top of this paragraph. Yatsev gvulois chuli. So he says, no, it's not a coincidence that these verses are right next to each other, where it says that Hashem is going to establish the borders of the nations. And then it says that Hashem is going to guard the Jewish people like his eye against 70.
Wow.
This, which the Jews are like the pupil of Hashem's eye, who hashachar shabayin, that's the black part, the dark part of the eye. And that's coming from the darkness, is coming the greatest light.
Wow, that is amazing. This is so good.
Okay, I want to see if I have the book and look it up.
Okay.
Hazinu, page 1000, Taf Reish Samech. Okay, very
Excellent.
good.
Thank you so much, Rabbi
Sure,
Turen. That
sure,
was
sure.
excellent.
Okay, thank
And
you.
thank you. Be well. See
You
you
as
God
well.
willing tomorrow.
Imir Hashem. All the best.
All the best.